Welcome, race fans, to another episode of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. I'm Sean Big Papa Williams.
I'm Jamie the Lear Jet Lear.
And I'm Adrian Woodruff.
And we will be bringing you all the action at Richmond Motor Speedway for the Toyota Owners 400. We're going to have the track breakdown with Adrian, and he's going to get things started doing a little bit different. Tonight is the late night edition, as Lear and I were at the Royals game, and we're filming this at 1 a.m. Central Time. So Adrian's pulling an all-nighter. Let's let him kick things off with the track breakdown. Adrian, break it down for us, buddy.
Oh, yeah. Good to be with you guys. It's a little late for my entry to be here with you guys. This week's racing action is coming to you live from the Richmond International Raceway in Richmond, Virginia. The race will air Sunday, April 24th at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fox. This event is scheduled for 400 laps, 300 miles. Richmond is a three-quarter-mile D-shaped oval. The turns are banked at 14 degrees, which places an emphasis on overall lateral grip out of these relatively flat corners. Kurt Busch, Trevor Bayne, and Erica Morello were quoted earlier this week in saying that the hardest element of this track is the forward bite off turn 4, so that they can carry this. Long-run speed will be the key to success Sunday due to the severe tire fall-off that we witnessed in 2016. Drivers are really having to struggle once the tires get worn out on a long run. And the drivers who can manage their tires best will find it much easier to pass, 30 to 40 laps into a race run because the other drivers have just burned their tires off due to poor tire management. The bottom groove will be the preferred line, although once enough rubber gets built up in the middle groove, you'll see drivers kind of start to drift up so that they can conserve their tires throughout a long run. On average, a green flag run is 40 laps here, but it's what's shown us that you can throw these stats out the window because we've seen a lot of green flag runs this year, and it's kind of just been the trend of the year. The fuel window will range from 110 to 120 laps. All 40 pit stalls are surfaced with concrete, which makes the boxes a lot harder to get out of as if they were asphalt surface. And so when drivers are making their green flag pit stops, they're going to have to be really careful not to slide their tires getting into the box or, buzzing the tires getting out of the box and, driving through too many stalls on exit. Drivers will play pit road tricks with the timing lines. Pit road speed will be enforced at 40 miles an hour, but the tricks that drivers play to try to be on the even or odd, just like we experienced at Martinsville, is going to come into play again, and it could get a lot of drivers in trouble with speeding penalties. It will only take the race leader about 30 to 35 laps to catch the tail end of the field on a green flag run. So it places a big emphasis on picking drivers that are going to start closer to the front so that they don't go a lap down so early in the race. It's, a short track like we had the past few weeks. It's very easy to go a lap down if your car's not driving well on the first run, especially if it goes green for a long time. And the NASCAR schedule makers have blessed us with back-to-back short track races. I know we're all excited for that. Short track races have just proved to have the most exciting racing and some of the most stressful races for DFS players. Over the past 5 years, we've had 7 cautions per race here, and this will ensure Sunday's race will be action-packed with many, many yellow flags to keep DFS players on the edge of their seat. Our viewers have been thankful to watch our show of late, and we hope to continue our hot streak this week. I feel like we have some pretty good picks this week, and with that being said, let's get into who we think will hoist the trophy in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Yeah, dude, thanks for giving us that awesome track breakdown, man. Really appreciate it. We'll start off with Lear. Lear, who's your guy to burn some rubber this week? Oh, wait, do the burning rubber thing for us, Lear.
Burning rubber, baby!
There you go. All right. Now, who's going to burn that rubber for you, Lear?
All right. So before I get into, this week's race, the Toyota Owners 400, I just wanted to do a quick recap of last week. We had some great picks, boys. We were all over the Carl Edwards play, which obviously that was a play you had to have to take down the GPP. We were also on Ricky Stenhouse. He was also a key member of people winning GPPs. And the best one of all is I told everybody to fade the Kyle Busch play. And so I hope you listened to me and faded that play because, he obviously didn't end up doing anything, crashed and was out of the race early. So
Don't forget that Trevor Bayne action.
Yeah,
and Trevor Bayne as well. So.
If only they would have faded your burning rubber pick too, they would have made some money.
Yeah, we can't be right on every single pick around here, but I know about you boys, but I still made some really good money last week.
I mean, we can't predict the crashes. I picked Matt Kenseth, and he led 142 laps, and if he wouldn't have crashed, people were pulling their hair out if he wasn't on your lineup. So I mean, I don't regret picking Matt Kenseth at all last week. I think we did awesome. Like Papa said last week, we can't predict the wreck. So I mean, just got to go with what some variation of that, because we do these picks based on education. We can't predict the future.
Yeah.
True.
So getting back to that play, my burning rubber pick for this week at the Toyota Owners 400 is Martin Truex Jr. in the number 78 Furniture Row vehicle. Truex has had a below average finish last week in Bristol, scoring 35 points. He started from the 8th position and finished in the 14th position. He did have 22 fastest laps. This week at Richmond, it's not the full mile track, and with the banking that they do have here, at what they had last week at Bristol compared to this week at Richmond, it's obviously a shorter track, and the corners are a lot flatter. So, like Adrian said, a lot of the drivers are going to be choosing that inside line. So huge pit strategy coming into play this week. Also, one of those things where we only have so many laps to play with during this race. So, making sure that you get the guys to get all those bonus points are going to be the thing that come that separate you and your team from everybody else. So, but this week, Martin Truex Jr. starting from that 22nd position, and he had a decent showing last year. He's been running well with the top cars in the series. I look for him to get, in the winner's circle this week. Cost point for him is $8,500. Which is kind of on the lower end for Martin Truex so far in the 2016 season, as far as his price point that he's been throughout the whole year. His value comes into play, basically in his starting position. And in 2014, Truex started 22nd and finished 10th. So hopefully he has the same, or if not a better finish. Like I said, I do think that Truex is going to have a good car this weekend. And I look for him to basically get off the schneid and get into the winner's circle this weekend. So play Truex. He's going to pay off for his value. He's only $8,500, so you're not going to get much more of that type of driver with that cost point and where he's starting at. So you get the 333 there. So I'm all over the Martin Truex Jr. play this week, boys.
Yeah, look, I like the play. I think you're being very generous with saying that you think he's going to win the race, especially coming from as far back as he is. I think he's capable of winning the race. I don't think that's probable. I think, honestly, you should look forward to a top 10 finish, which the place differential is more than enough to pay off that $8,500 price tag. I love him as a play this week. I just temper your expectations on the win, dude. There are a lot of people that are better at this track than
That's
Martin
what I
Truex.
do, dude. Do you not know? I just put my balls out there.
I know, but it's my job to call you out when you do that. Adrian, your thoughts, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that Martin Truex Jr.'s price was a bit off this week. NASCAR, or I won't say NASCAR, I guess DraftKings, they kind of missed it with a few drivers, and to our favor, they missed it with Martin Truex Jr. as far as his price is concerned. At only $8,500, this guy was one of the 5 people for the championship last year at Homestead. When you can get, based on the point system, he's one of the 4 best drivers in NASCAR. Just based on the rules that NASCAR sets out there as of 2015. So I mean, for him to be, around the 15th or 16th highest priced driver on DraftKings, it's crazy because Martin Truex Jr.'s got a lot of talent. He's really, driven that 78 car, with the Toyota on the hood. He's just driven it a lot better this year, and I just love the alliance they have with Joe Gibbs Racing. And they've been hot lately. I mean, that guy dominated Texas, and it's a completely different style track, but I mean, it just shows that these guys can go out there and dominate a race. And if the cautions fall the right way and a couple of guys get caught speeding on pit road, you might just see Martin Truex Jr. in the lead and not know what happened.
Yeah, dude. No, like I said, solid play. I think you're spot on here. I think that transitions me well into my pick since it's also a part of Team JGR. Surprise, surprise. Guys, I'm going back to the well on Kyle Busch, and I realize we've seen a price increase this week, like to $11K. I think that's going to drive down his ownership, as well as the wreck last week will also drive down his ownership. Last season, we saw this multiple times. Anytime that JGR had a technical malfunction or a pit malfunction, for some reason, people will automatically just jump off of Team JGR And for some reason, Team JGR, specifically Kyle Busch, came back and would win a race right after that happened. And if you jumped off the ship, you were getting punished the next week. I think that a low ownership percentage this year, 11K is going to help drive that, plus the wreck. He starts 7th, which is one of the better starting positions for him to gain positions as a top car. But here's where it gets crazy, and I think you're just kind of not doing it right if you're not rostering Kyle Busch, guys. He's got 71% of the time he finishes in the top 10. 66% of the time he finishes in the top 5 on this track, and he has 4 wins here. Oh, and as a bonus, he also has the 3rd most laps led at this track at 940. Bye, Kyle. Guys, it's that simple in DFS NASCAR. If you're running multiple lineups this week, I think at least a quarter of your lineup should be there. I'm personally going probably closer to 50 to 75%. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a fair amount of ownership for Kyle. I'll probably be somewhere around 30 to 40% owned on Kyle Busch. I got to roster him just because I know what he's capable of, and I can't fade him a little. I did fade him a good amount last week. Just based on what Jamie was talking about. Me and him talked, and I really was kind of on the Kyle Busch, off the Kyle Busch play last week. But yeah, I mean, Kyle Busch is just so good at Richmond. From 2010 to 2012, he won 3 straight spring races here. And he hasn't had as much success at Richmond of late, but, Kyle Busch is going to get back into the victory lane sooner or later. And, if people are talking about Kyle Busch is struggling, I mean, it's been one race since he's lost, but, his price is just a little higher for me. I feel like he's going to finish top 5, but if I can find a driver that's going to finish that's cheaper than him, I feel like I could get more bang for my buck. Just 11K just puts a hurting on your wallet.
My thoughts on this are, I'm not going to go bold like I did last week. I'm definitely going to have some Kyle Busch this week. And the only reason for the change of heart is, he got that bubble burst last week. Everything, you can't win 3, 4, 5, 6 races in a row. It's just, not going to happen. And it's based off of, the information from last week. But I'm still not going to go full board on Kyle Busch this week, just because the price point, 11,000, a little high. But, with his history here, you do have to have that little decent exposure to him. But I do look for him to at least finish this race this week. But based off of his history, starting from that 7th position, he's definitely going to be a play that I'm going to have a little bit of exposure to, especially, in the GPPs. Not probably as much in my cash games, just because cash games, I know a lot of people will probably pick him just because of who he is. So, but that's just my brain working backwards. So take it for what you will. But I definitely like a little bit of exposure to Kyle Busch, but not full blown like Big Papa.
Hey, dude, I never said full blown. I just said I want more than the field.
I know. I think that's 50, 75%, but that's a lot of lineups, bro. You're basically viewing him as a cornerstone this week for your lineups.
Right, because 75% of the time he finishes in the top 10.
Yeah. There's no joke. The numbers are definitely there. It's just been a little while since he's been in that winner's circle, and starting from that 7th position. So you are going to get some place differential, especially if you have a feeling he's going to lead some laps. Or is this going to be one of those Kyle Busch episodes where he kind of plays back in the field a little bit and then sneaks up at the end, and we'll finish with same as somebody else that you could have spent a lot less money on. So it's just like it always is with Kyle Busch. It's pick your poison.
Fair enough. All right.
Yep.
I think we've wrapped up the Kyle Busch love or hatred, depending on which way you want to break it down. And what brings us to Adrian's burning rubber guy. Adrian, who you got, man?
The reason I wanted to kind of say that I wasn't going to be owning Kyle Busch too heavy is because Kyle Busch isn't going to lead as many laps as you guys think he will. Because Kevin Harvick is going to take this race by the throat, and he's just going to run away with it. Starting on the pole, he has the first pit stall, and that's an early victory for the 4 team. We've seen the past few weeks that if you have a first pit stall, you have a lot of success in the Sprint Cup Series. And the pole sitter usually jumps out and leads laps. And, once the pole sitter gets to a certain point, it doesn't really matter where they finish inside the the top 10, top 15 because they have all those bonus laps built up that's going to just shoot them ahead of every other driver. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to take Kevin Harvick, starting from the pole this week. He has an average finish of 10.8 at Richmond, 3 career wins, a top 5 in 2 of his last 3 Richmond starts. By the NASCAR point system in 2016, Kevin Harvick is the top point scorer, and that's not by DraftKings, but just by the the point system NASCAR puts out there. He hasn't given his sponsor Busch Beer a win, and he badly wants Jimmy Johns this year. And Busch Beer kind of took the transition and jumped on full time to cover for Budweiser. Anheuser-Busch playing a little marketing games. But Kevin Harvick really wants to get that Busch Beer car into victory lane so he can spray Busch Beer all over his screw. And he's led laps in all but one race in 2016. I like those stats, and I like Kevin Harvick this week. I think that Kevin Harvick hasn't really. He's just been right there. Last week at Bristol, I thought Kevin Harvick was going to hurt me because I didn't play him. I know Jamie had some Kevin Harvick. But I just feel like Kevin Harvick at these short tracks, that's where he made his money growing up, and that's where he's going to make his money on Sunday.
If I have a choice of choosing between, the top 2 tier guys, I'm going with Kevin Harvick over Kyle Busch this week. Just because he is starting from that one position, and he just has the history, just like Kyle Busch. I mean, he's got 3 wins here out of 30 starts. He's got 9 top 5s, 18 top 10s. He's going to lead laps, and you save $400 versus Kyle Busch. And I think he's just hungry to get back into victory lane. And we've been seeing a lot of ones-to-ones a lot this year, boys. So, why not keep the trend rolling?
Well, the reason why I don't think the trend will roll is because he's not a part of Team JGR, and that team is just so far ahead of everybody else. And let's not kid around, guys. If they didn't have the tire issues last week, they would have probably finished 1, 2, 3, 4. That's how good those cars were running. Anytime they got knocked back, they immediately went back to the front. I think the only reason why they're where they're at is because we didn't get actual practice and qualifying in because of the rain. And I think you're getting an advantage there, and I think you're going to get majority of the people on Kevin Harvick. We know people chase the pole sitter. I think you can get Kyle Busch, even though he's more expensive, way less owned, and odds are, what we've seen recently, he's going to dominate Kevin Harvick. So if that's just the way I want to go, but I totally understand where your head's at.
Try to take both of them.
You can do that. It does strap you pretty bad, both for cash, but you can definitely take both of them. All right, with that said, I think it's time to transition us into the value plays, since we were telling you need to spend up on 2 of the most expensive guys this week, and that's just the truth. They're the 2 best at this track. They literally grade out 1, 2. They're separated by 0.3 of a point in NASCAR's grading system on this track. So let's talk about those value guys. Lear, who's your guy to bring us some value this week?
I'm going to actually go with a guy that's got quite a bit of experience here, and maybe in some people's eyes they won't view him as a value play, but I'm going to roll with Jamie McMurray as my number 1 value play this week. Chip Ganassi Racing. McMurray's got some decent stuff going on here at Richmond. He's been flying under the radar for basically 2 reasons. He hasn't shown up much this season. I mean, he's just averaging just a little bit over, let me see, I had it right here, 30 points, per race. And he's just been hovering, around that 30-point mark with a 16 in the last 4 races, 34, 16, 36, 32. But this week he's got some really good things going for him when it comes to, being out there at Richmond. But as far as this week, both Ganassi, I like both of them, McMurray and Larson. If basically last week, if Larson's differential didn't go out, he was going to be a major player in your GPP lineups. He's sitting there 3rd, starting from 25th position. But like I said, McMurray has a nice starting position this week at 27th, and his cost is very, very doable at the 7,900. He's had some nice history, coming up through the pack. He's raced here 26 times. He's got 3 top 5s, by the way, which 2 of those top 5s have come within the last 3 races here at Richmond, and 6 top 10s, with his last 3 races starting from the 15th, 9th, and 31st position, with finishes of 4th, and 13th. That's some great, positive place differential right there. And I love J Mac this week to come through the field again, especially from that 27th position, and just look around at the other drivers that are around that same position. I mean, they're just not in the same caliber as Jamie McMurray, and you're going to get him at a decent price point. And so he's definitely going to help out your lineups this week.
Yeah, like you also said the problem. The reason why I'm not crazy about Jamie Mack this week is he's just not producing. And at the 30-point average, like I can save even a couple more grand and buy Benedetto or buy another one of those drivers that is constantly getting me the 30 points. And I just think that you're better off spending that money. Now, Jamie Mack does have the track history here, like you said, but inevitably you're betting track history against recent performance. And I don't know that I would want to do that. And that's just where I come down on this. That's about the best way I can put that. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, you're right, Papa. You can't really look at a recent stat, in the past, because we have this new downforce package, and it's really, helped a lot of drivers more than it's helped others. But Lear's right also, because Jamie McMurray has top fives in 3 of his last 5 starts at Richmond, top 15 in 5 straight races here. Starting in the 27th position, if he can get a top 15, I think that's fine. I think he can do a lot more than a top 15. He was running around the top 5 in both races last year at Richmond. I like Jamie McMurray, and I feel like his struggles are not going to last very long because he's such a. And Kyle Larson actually likes this track a lot too. So if Jamie's struggling at all, during this weekend, he can bounce off Kyle Larson and figure out what the 42 team is doing that's helped them over the years. Jamie McMurray he's one of those GPP plays that he's mid-price, and a lot of people probably won't pick him because they would either go all the way down or jump up for Truex or somebody like that. So I do have Jamie McMurray in a fair amount of lines. I'd say probably about 30 to 40%.
Well, and that's the great part too. Is I think he's going to be at a really decently percentage owned price for you this week to really make that difference for you.
No, and dude, don't get me wrong, man. If he's going to be a top 15 car, like, you need to own him because of the place differential alone at that price tag, right? It's the same reason why I was telling people to pick Austin Dillon earlier in the season. The price doesn't match his potential on the track, right? If that's the case, like, if he's one of those picks. We're filming this at 1 a.m., right? I'm going to need to see how he looks in both practices before I roster him on a lot of lineups. Otherwise, it'll be a sparing play here or there just because I think you're right about the ownership percentage and his track history. It's just something I can't get away from. And I think since we're talking about guys that I prefer and save money on, it's proper for me to bring up Matty D, who had just an amazing performance last week. He's 5,700 on DraftKings. What a great story. What a great interview. I even got emotional myself afterwards. So great for BK Racing to get a top 10 finish like that. Just amazing. I'm so happy for them. But here's the thing. I'm not going to tell you you're going to get a top 10 finish again because you're not, most likely. I'm not even going to tell you that he's going to put up the 62 points he put up last week because he probably won't. But what he will do at that salary is deliver you probably 25 to 35 points, which is more than enough that you need for the salary relief that he gives you. I think that makes him a great play. He might be a little overowned because of the great story and the fact that it was on prime time right after the race, the interview, and it was so great and so heartfelt and overwhelming. But I honestly don't care because when you compare him to the other drivers that are at the cost savings, the rest of them just can't produce those points on a consistent basis like he can. And he starts from the 36th position. And the 3 drivers behind him, the only way he's finishing behind those 3 drivers is if he wrecks the car. So there's 0 chance of negative place differential, in my opinion. Your guys' thoughts, Lear?
I think you're letting your emotions get a little bit too much of your senses here. I mean, it was awesome, though, to see him get emotional over that. I mean, because these guys, they really put all their heart and soul and everything they've got within them into their racing career. And to see him have a finish like that was awesome. But he's got a great price point too this week, and starting from that 36th position. I mean, like you said, I definitely agree that he's got all the potential to have place differential and get you just those minimum points that you need. With even the bonus spot of last week. I mean, he scored 62 points last week. I mean, that's awesome from what his price point was. So you had to have him last week. But I don't have the confidence in De Benedetto. He's raced here twice, but he's basically finished where he started in both of those races. So, but there's only room for him to improve. He's getting more experience, and out of the same tier of guys, I mean, he does have 2 top 10s so far this year. So, he's creeping up there with that BK Racing team. So, all the props to you, Mr. De Benedetto. And but I will sprinkle him in a few here and there, but probably not more than a couple.
Fair enough. Adrian, your thoughts, bud?
Yeah, there's nothing better than watching a race and being able to see something like that happen. Everyone's always focused on the race for the lead, but when a guy like Matt De Benedetto can finish 6th place, and it's like they gave him the trophy, it's just amazing. And, I was getting emotional too when he was getting interviewed after the race because it meant so much to him. And a lot of drivers out there, they don't like to struggle, and guys like Matt De Benedetto know what it's like to run poorly every week. And when they can really get a car that matches their talent, it's awesome to watch. I was a little upset by it because, to be honest, he kind of took the spotlight away from Trevor's second career top 5, but I'm not going to do it. I like Matt De Benedetto this week. He's gotten a lot of exposure for this, and people will probably be on him for that exposure. He's gotten a lot of media interviews this week, stuff that he wouldn't normally have, which is great for his sponsors, Dustless Blasting and Cosmo Motors. It's just good for that team. And they have a lot of, just probably woke up excited to get to the racetrack this weekend. And I think they're going to be working harder this weekend than they have all season long because they, all season long, they never, woke up and expected to finish top 10. With that being, the case last weekend, I think they have a bar set and a precedent set. And that's not something that they're going to reach every week, but I think Matt De Benedetto is going to get you those 25 points that you need. You don't need him to go out and, be spectacular every week, but, 25 points and you're good to go at 5,700.
Yeah. And see, guys, here's something that I wanted to talk about just really quickly before we get to the other picks is I think a lot of people are going to think like Jamie did, like what Jamie said, and say, there's just no way he can back up that performance. So they're going to try to jump to a different value just to be contrarian. And I think that jump to different value runs you a risk of getting you negative points in most of those drivers around him. That's why I have no problem, even if a large amount of people are on him, being on Matty D this week. And with that, it's time for Adrian's pick.
Ryan Blaney in the number 21 Motorcraft Ford Fusion. He's 6,800 this week. His price is slowly creeping up. Hopefully it doesn't get above 7K before I can use the well up too much. You really haven't been able to, confidently use him lately because he's been qualifying so well. And qualifying being rained out was the best thing that could have happened to Ryan Blaney. Starting from the 29th position is his worst starting position of 2016, which offers a great opportunity for place differential. This is his first Sprint Cup start at Richmond, but he has 4 starts in the Xfinity Series with 4 top 10s. He's secured at least 1 fastest lap bonus points in 6 of our 8 races in 2016. And, if you notice, our rookies have been on fire in 2016. They've been guys that you're watching the race and just have blown you away because they are just running with these experienced veterans and just surprising a lot of people. And if given the equipment, they just go out there and rock the field. And Ryan Blaney is just way too talented to fade starting all the way back in the 29th position. Mm-hmm. Jamie kind of talked about how Jamie McMurray was starting in 27th and the drivers around him weren't exactly to his caliber. I think Ryan Blaney's a lot better driver than Jamie McMurray. No offense, Jamie, but Ryan Blaney's hot right now. And I look forward to him continuing his success that he's had in 2016.
Yeah, man, no salt taken. Like I'm all on Ryan Blaney too. It's just, with some of the other drivers that are around that same area, like the David Reagans and Josh Weisses and McDowells and Bushers. I do like Landon Castle, but he's kind of, in that kind of lower tier part of the drivers. But, those 2 guys, those are some 2 good name, good equipment drivers that you're going to get in that late 20 position that you definitely have to take advantage of those guys on your team this week because they're going to be place differential guys. And, based off of their costs, especially Blaney at 6,800, you can't beat that. And like you said, he's been qualifying out of his mind this year so far. And he's right there as far as the the rookies this year as far as earning points. He's right there, not too far behind, Chase Elliott. But even Chase Elliott too is in that same 23rd spot. So I mean, there's going to be a plethora of guys that you can pick. Especially in the late 20s there. But I definitely love Ryan Blaney, and he is going to be on at least 50% of my lineups for sure.
Yeah, I love the play as well. I love young, talented, and with a chip on their shoulder, wanting to prove that they deserve to be here. And I think he's raced well all season and just tore it up. And I think that's why you want to be on Blaney this week at the $6,800 price tag. It's just one of those plays that, like we say all the time, it's just the right play, right? and I think that's true this week. I think he's just the right play.
And it's the talent. It's the Wood brothers. They've been in NASCAR for a long time. They're a good team. It's just they just don't. They only have one vehicle. They're just not a multi-vehicle team. But on top of that, they are just doing very well. And to have him at that price point, 6,800, it just makes so many different options flexible for your lineup that you can get some of those other big boys without having to go all the way down to the bottom, for the lower tier guys, and hoping and praying that, they give you a showing where, Ryan Blaney is definitely going to be a sure thing of, at least giving you, 30 to 40 points.
Right.
His average is 23, but that only average is brought down from the fact that he's been starting all of his, qualifying, in the top 10 and in the teens, where, he's got a great shot this weekend, and I'm going to be all over that. I know you guys probably will be too.
Yeah, I love it. That wraps up value this week. I think we've got you 3 great value plays. They're all a little bit different. You've got the great place differential guys in Blaney and Jamie Mack. And if you're looking to punt some salary to buy some more of the studs on the track, to maybe pull the Harvick, Busch, like double pairing, you're going to have to reach for Matty D and just hope for that 20 to 30. But you guys are right. Those guys have better ceilings. But with the Matty D strategy, you're just going for floor. I think that transitions as well into the guys we don't want this week, which is who's going to the garage this week. Remember, guys, this could be we don't like the driver at the track. We think they're too expensive. It could be that we don't like the equipment they're running, or they just have a bad track history here. So with that said, let's get into it. Lear, who do you got going to the garage this week, sir?
Well, going to the garage for me this week is a guy that's been kind of struggling. He's on a big team, but he's just been disappointing. And I used to be a huge fan of his in the past. I mean, back when he was with Dodge. But Casey Kane has been disappointing so far in 2016. His average fantasy points this year is around 25 points. For someone who costs $8,200 this week, and unfortunately, he's overqualified, starting in the 8th position. Hendrick, has not performed well of late in Richmond, with Jimmy Johnson getting the last win here in 2008, so almost 8 years ago. And not saying it won't happen this week, but it's definitely not going to happen with Casey Kane because that situation is not going to change with him. His cost, for who he is too high, and for what he's produced, he will not stay up in the front. I fully expect him to finish, within the 20 to 30 range. There are just way too many better options out there for you to play this week that are more cost effective, allow you to be more flexible with your roster and your higher performing drivers. So with his cost at $8,200, I'm just there's just better options for me this weekend. I'm staying off the double K this weekend.
Yeah, dude, I absolutely agree with you. Overpriced, overqualification, easy fade. That's all. There's no reason to fluff it up. That's what it is. Adrian, your thoughts?
Yeah, he's starting from the 8th position. He has been far from stellar this year, and over the past couple years, he one top 10 finish in his last 7 starts at Richmond, and you need a top 10 finish from Casey Kane starting 8th, just to keep the ship above water. And I think pitch black on his paint scheme this weekend is going to describe his weekend well. I don't like.
Well played. All right. And I think that brings me to my guy to go to the garage, which is Tony Stewart. No, just kidding. I know he's not available on DraftKings, but I do have Smoke having a terrible week. Just keep an eye out for that. But really, guys, the person that you don't want to own is Danica this week. Look, you usually don't say qualifying 21st is an overqualification for a driver, but it is for Danica, at least at Richmond. Her average finish here at Richmond is 25.6. The last three times here, she went backwards. The only time she's been positive here is when she started well below in the bottom 30s. There are much better drivers to own here. Don't get caught up in the Danica love. Don't get caught up in the fact that she's qualified low and that her price is low. I think those things are going to entice people to want to play her this week. I think they're just bad plays. She doesn't have when you go over her track history here, it's funny because she has 0 top 15s or better, and you could honestly say 0 top 20s or better. Except she fell back. She overqualified and fell back to 19th and 16th once. But still, those would have been negative points for you. You don't want a driver like that that's going to occupy negative point space. Fade Danica this week. Your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I read an article that someone asked Danica about how she felt the weekend was going to go this weekend in Richmond, and she was quoted as saying, "We are definitely going to be moving around a lot more this weekend. I think we're going to be miserable some of the time. I mean, there are some times when the tires fall off and you're like, shoot me out here. I have a feeling we're going to have a few shoot me moments this weekend where it's just going to be moving all around before it's going to be a lot of work. But as long as we have the opportunity to pass, I mean, even if you're slipping and sliding around and it feels like crap and you're passing somebody, it's still fun." So, that's just a quick snippet, but it kind of just proves that Danica is already, settling in to be running around 35th, 3, 4, 5, 6 laps down.
Yeah. I mean, I'm right there with you guys. I mean, her cost at 6,400 is very enticing, obviously, but just based off of the history here, she's also right around the same area of averaging 25 points, per race. Now, if she could do something like that, give you a 35 to a 40 here at this track, I'd be definitely more enticed to put her in more of my lineups, but just where she's at. And obviously, like you said, she doesn't sound enthused about being here. And she really never has had the history of liking the smaller tracks and, the bumping and rubbing that comes with, the smaller tracks and being aggressive. And that's not her mentality. She's just not an aggressive type of driver. She's more in tune with the larger tracks that are on the circuit. So, yeah, I'm definitely staying off the Danica Patrick play this week, and I will have 0 of her.
Dude, Adrian, I'm so glad you read that quote, and I'm so glad you found that. That was the funniest thing I've ever heard, and if that's not a driver making excuses before they even turn laps under green, I have no idea what that was ridiculous. If I was a sponsor, I'd be a little upset at that statement because it just doesn't seem like she's even taking the potential to run positive here. Easy fade. With that said, oh, go ahead, man.
Before we move on, I just want to give credit. That article was by Ray White at Sporting News.
Nice. Yes, definitely don't want to plagiarize people's stuff. Way to give props. All right. Adrian, who's your guy to go to the garage this week, buddy?
Man, I'm pulling a Jamie. I'm going to make some people mad this week. My going to the garage pick is Denny Hamlin, number 11, Toyota. Denny Hamlin is 10,400 this weekend, starting from the 5th position. Denny Hamlin, boys, is 18th or worse in 5 of his last 6 wins. 5 of his last 6 Richmond starts. Just been on cruise control ever since he won the Daytona 500. He has no reason to go out here and dominate a race. Denny's not going to look to push the issue because he already has that win in the bank. That win in the bank. He's really just been partying ever since then. It's just since Daytona, his high water mark has been 45 points. Okay, that's not impressive at 10-4. I mean, you can say that, you like the JGR stack and everything, and I completely understand the JGR stack, but Denny Hamlin hasn't worked out in the JGR stack since Daytona, and that's proof right there because his high water mark, being 45 points since Daytona. And he, like I said, he's just overpriced for what he's been doing this year. I can't put any faith into Denny Hamlin, and I know that his team is running well. I know JGR is running well. But I just not going to have any Denny Hamlin this week. I think he's going to be running around 25th. He'll get a few speed penalties here and there, and like Danica said, it'll be a shooting race for Denny.
I mean, it's crazy, but the fact is also he's jumped up $800 in cost as far as on DraftKings. Like, what kind of sense does that make? But I get it because they think he's a better short track racer. But man, I mean, coming off a 12-point performance, I'm sorry, not a 12-point performance, but was it a 12-point performance? Yeah, 12-point performance last week, the Food City 500. You know, and then the week before only 27 points, and then the week before that only negative 22 points. So he's definitely been, you know, pushing it on cruise control, and you know, even though he's got that top qualifying position with starting from the 5th. I mean, he did the same thing last week, and what happened? Same thing. I think that same result. He's going to fade to the back. I'm right there with you. I'm not on Denny Hamlin this week, even though he's got some decent history. He's got a lot of laps led here in only 19 starts. He does have 2 wins and 10 top 10s and 7 top 5s, but you know, I just don't see the desire and the sparkle in his eye that he really wants to be out there and win races. He's just, like Adrian said, he's just kind of coasting and going through the motions of, you know, waiting for the season to go through.
Fair enough. And I kind of have to agree with you on that. Like, I think he's just like kind of biding his time till the end of the season for the chase. The real reason why I am not like taking him to the garage this week, and why I will have at least a couple of lineups with him on it, is I think that you're not going to get there's not a chance for you to get a driver that is as good on this track as he is for that low ownership percentage. I think he's going to be the lowest owned of the elite driver class out there. I think people are going to worry about that $800 price increase because it's unwarranted with his recent track history here and his recent race history. So there's no reason to inflate it. Literally, it's a swerve that you're making to try to be different with the field. So, like, if you're putting together several different JGR stacks, one of them should include him at least. It probably won't work, but if it does work for some reason, like, you will be on an island, and that's why I'm running him out at least once.
Are you thinking single digits as percentage?
Dude, it might very well be. I don't think you ever see real single digits unless you get like the middle range or cheaper drivers usually. But he'll be sub 20%, which is which is huge for an elite driver. He might even be sub 15, like around 12 to 11 would be my guess.
I mean, Matt Kenseth owned last week.
Yeah.
So.
Well, fair enough, dude. Like, well, I mean, the reason why I'm saying this, guys, is last week I told everyone to fade Kurt, and because of exactly what you guys were talking about, I mean, the situation parallels itself, and Kurt Busch ended up being what you wanted on your lineup. So I threw him in one of mine, even though I faded him most of the time, and just like in this instance, I think I'm going to be happy with the one lineup if he goes ham. Right?
Fair enough.
All right, guys. With that, it wraps up our going to the garage segment. It's now time for we're the only show in the industry that breaks down that puts together an actual lineup together, and we're entering it in the 25K lug nut for you. You can see it running there, and we encourage you to not copy this lineup exactly because it doesn't do us any good if everybody's sharing the same lineup. Make some variations, guys. And with that said, let's get into picking our lineup this week. Lear. Actually, Adrian did the intro to the show. We'll let him make the first call this week. Adrian, who do you want on this team, buddy?
Let me go ahead and eat up some salary and say Kevin Harvick.
All right. I think we can do that. We'll look over here. We'll grab Harvick at the 10-6, and we'll throw him on board. Because it's such a crazy thing to do to put him and Kyle Busch on and what you have to do with salary, we'll leave that to your own devices. I'm going to go down and I'm going to grab, let's see. I'm just going to go ahead and plug in both of your guys' value plays because I think they're the right plays. That's how convinced I am of that. So once we put in both Blaney and let me find them both. once we put in both Blaney and Jamie Mack. Where you at, Jamie? There you are. All right. That leaves us 8,233 left per driver. Lear, we kept you out in the doghouse long enough, man. What's your pick?
Hey, I'm gonna do us a favor and stick with a driver right in that kind of same price range, right there. But I want to roll with the number 78, Truex Jr.
Yeah,
Love it.
I love it, dude. And the way this team's built, that fits perfectly. Now, my recommendation, like, do you guys see what's going on with this team? Like, we've got Harvick, Blaney, McMurray, Truex Jr., 2 spots left. We're looking at 8,100. Now, a lot of players would just plug in 2 players from this range. They would just throw possibly Dylan, Larson, or Dylan. And the way the prices work, you just have to go down there. Or you could put in Kane and Larson, but we know we don't want to play Kane right now. Would you spend up and then try to find a value, or would you guys pick it from this middle tier some more, or what? Adrian, what's your thoughts, man?
I think that either way works. If you're going for value, there's a few guys I really like. I like Trevor Bayne at 6,100.
Mm-hmm.
I like Matt DiBenedetto at 5,700. There's a lot of good drivers if you go down into the well. So I mean, Papa, you pick a superstar, and then we'll fit around him.
Let's just show what it looks like. So I plugged DiBenedetto in, and at 5,700, that literally gives you your choice of any driver remaining other than Kyle Busch. So if you throw DiBenedetto in this lineup, you can pick anything you want. And let's do we love our boy Bayne. Let's get aboard the Bayne train. That gives us 10-1, which is actually the only people it eliminates are Hamlin, Edwards, and Logano, other than Kyle Busch. And I think we're okay with that, since none of us really want to roster Hamlin, except for the fact of his track history here. And I mean, do any of us have Cousin Carl going back to back?
No, I love Matty K right here.
Yeah, I mean, and dude, honestly, he fits the lineup perfectly. Lear, what are your thoughts?
And super hot lately.
Yeah, I mean, I do like the Kenseth play. Like, dude, guys, it's time for him to. This is one of the top drivers. I mean, not a guy that I particularly like a lot personally, but I mean, he's one of the guys that's been in the circuit for a long time. He's got a lot of experience at this track, and he's got a decent, starting position. He's starting from the 13th position, so there's a lot of positives to take away. And he's got to be upset about last week because he had a good car. He led some laps. He was feeling positive. There's nothing more than what he wants to do is go out there and prove it wrong. And make sure that he, takes it home this week. But I also, too, as far as that goes, if we would stick with the Benedetto play to kind of swerve off a little bit, I also, too, I like Earnhardt Jr. again this week to sprinkle him in here and there because, he's also same deal. He's been, like we talked about last week, he's been starting in that late, mid-20s, 20 or later. And this week he's starting from the 16th position. So there's still plenty of place differential for Earnhardt Jr. to get Absolutely. You had to have him last weekend. And, he's a little bit expensive. I mean, but compared to the rest of the guys, he's only $9,300. So that would leave us extra money left over. And it kind of swerve with all that extra money. And, I know we talked about that too. But
Absolutely, dude. And that's what I was just getting ready to talk about. I was going to talk about 2 game theory things real quick. The first was that the rostering Kenseth at 10-1. Now, I have no problem with that. I actually really like this lineup, and it makes me like it a whole lot. The problem is we've seen in NASCAR specifically, and this is true in every sport, when you spend your full allotment of salary, the odds that you have duplicate lineups with other people increase significantly. Like when you leave money on the table, you decrease the odds that other people are going to have that same lineup. For some reason, especially in NASCAR, people think that they have to spend all their salary, and they do it across the boards. So game theory would tell us that we might not necessarily want to do that, at least not with all of our lineups. But I really like this lineup with Kenseth. The problem is I think multiple people are going to have it. Lear alluded to this just a second ago. He wanted to reach down and take Dale Earnhardt Jr. at 93, and that would leave us $800 on the board. And the odds are no one else in no odds are no one else in the field will have this lineup leaving $800 on the salary, because somebody will probably go down and kick Bain off of their lineup and jump up to a driver in the between 69 and 61. That's standard what people will do. Or they'll try to upgrade Blaney or McMurray. They'll take that money and throw it somewhere, and they'll do that editing. That game theory, I think you're better off jumping away. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, for sure. You know, if you leave money on the table, you nailed it. People want to spend all their money. And if you have money left on the table and you're trying to spend it, you could just ruin some picks that you have. They're really good picks. Just because Dale Earnhardt Jr. doesn't cost as much as Matt Kenseth doesn't mean Matt Kenseth is necessarily going to be a better driver this weekend. Dale Earnhardt Jr. starting 3 positions farther back than Matt Kenseth. It has just as much potential to move up and has been a lot more, successful of 2016 of getting the finishes. Matt Kenseth hasn't exactly gotten the finishes this year, but Dale Earnhardt Jr. has has a second place finish in 2 of the last 3 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series races. Junior's on fire. And I don't think anyone's going to leave $800 on the table. Like you said, they're going to try to upgrade Bain, which you can't get any better than Trevor Bain, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, I went ahead and locked in Dale Jr. for us off of Lear's suggestion there. I think he's just spot on right about how to swerve a little bit. Even though Jr. usually carries with him a higher ownership percentage, I don't think we have to worry about that because of the salary that we have remaining. I just think that's the right play here. Now, I may go back and put that other lineup in. I don't know. I'll probably have the same one as the 2 of you and probably a couple other people if I do that. But, it's a nice lineup. That's what I was trying to get at.
The problem is now hundreds of people have that same Dale Earnhardt Jr. lineup, so that one's not going to be a part of it.
Hey, I trust our fans.
That one won't be low owned now because we just brought out hundreds of people.
Hey, I trust our fans to look for some other value, some other plays somewhere, not to just copy us. Like, hey, if you learned anything from the show last year, you want an amalgamation of something that all 3 of us are saying, not what we come up with.
Exactly.
That's what wins the tournaments.
Point. It's good.
All right, guys. With that said,
choose who you think's right.
What was that?
I just said you got to choose who you think's going to be right that week. People thought Jamie was crazy. They probably didn't listen to his other picks.
Well, I mean, and rightfully so, right? Because he was wrong about Hamlin. That's the thing. Is, guys, we're all 3. Everyone that breaks down NASCAR should be using the statistical analysis and the track history and race performances and paying attention to the cars and the practices. But some of them don't, guys. And sometimes you can pay attention to all that stuff and just be wrong. But, we do the best we can, and hopefully with what we give you and what you do research-wise on your own, you will come up with the right plays and we'll all end up making money, because that's what we love doing. And with that said, we all want to thank you for joining in and watching the Rubbin' is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR show for another week. We know you don't have to, but we love having you on board. Let the guys say goodbye as Adrian's shaking the Curry jersey in your face.
Yeah, guys, thanks for joining us again this week. We hope our picks are going to help you win some money. We hope they're going to win us some money first. But, secondarily, we hope you guys take home some cash so that you'll come back next week and watch us. I got to throw it in there. Sunday at 3:30, Steph Curry and the boys taking on the Rockets for Game 4. We had a little bit of trouble in Game 3, but we look to get back on our high horse for Game 4 and get the job done. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll let these guys say their goodbyes.
There.
Looking forward to it, boys. Another exciting short track race this weekend. It's especially these types of tracks. If you're one of those type of DFS players and sit there and literally watch your lineup go all the way up and come back all the way down and go back all the way up and go back all the way down. Like, it's definitely an emotional roller coaster, but it makes for an interesting Sunday fun day. I will tell you that. So, looking for another great week again this week, boys. There's going to be some interesting plays, and I hope that everybody out there, you listen to what we have to offer, because we definitely have some good picks and good plays for you there. And we appreciate all the love, especially everybody commenting on the show. Definitely appreciate that, and like us, share us, subscribe. Turn into the YouTube channel, and most of all, main reason why we're here for fantasydonks.com. So appreciate the love. Hope you guys have a great weekend.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Lear got all my spiel done. I wanted to thank Zubaz, a potential sponsor for the World Series champion Zubaz that we picked up tonight, as well as a Royals win. Aren't they fabulous?
The Ric Flair pants.
And dude,
right,
hey, Zubaz,
Man,
you could totally sponsor this show, and we will Zubaz out. I promise you, like, all of us will wear as much Zubaz as humanly possible. And you could also start sponsoring NASCAR drivers and do their little paint schemes in Zubaz. That'd be fun to wear. But with that said, guys, thanks for tuning in. I just wanted to show sponsors that we can tout your products with the best of them. Thanks for sticking with us, guys. We'll be back next week with a great show, and then we will have another week. We will be doing some special stuff from Kansas Speedway. And thanks for tuning in. Let's win some money this week. Hopefully I'm winning more than you, but hopefully we're all winning money. Have a good one, guys.
Later, everybody.